Hays Malaysia. Let's give the both of them a big round of applause. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you also to the CFA for having us. Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. How are you feeling? I hope you're not too sleepy after the lunch. Yeah. So just. Okay, all right. Bit of a technical error there. So, welcome to today's career day. Yeah. Some of the things we'll be talking about during this career workshop is that we're going to be introducing a bit about Hays. If you're wondering what is Hays, who are we? I think just now at the booth we got quite a number of questions asking, are we some form of finance company and so on? Yeah. And then we'll be talking about how to build your CV, interview tips also, and then we'll give some form of a market overview on the recruitment trends, especially within the financial service industry. And of course, our favorite part, the Q&A. Yeah? So we look forward to getting a lot of questions during that session. Okay. So first up, I'd like to introduce Sujin here.
Hi, my name is Sujin. So I actually manage the banking and financial services recruitment here at Hays Malaysia. I actually joined Hays as an associate consultant about 5 years ago. And yeah, I'm currently actually leading a team of 15 people. So each of us actually recruit within different functions within the banks and financial services industry. Sumana is one of my team members. And yeah, I'm currently been here for 5 years. I think that's about it. Thanks.
I think Sujin is not introducing herself enough, so she's also one of our top performers within Hays. Yeah, you can see the achievements speak for themselves. Okay, and about myself, prior to joining Hays, I was actually 4 years working with a refugee agency before I made the change to join the corporate world. So I've been here for 4 years plus. Yeah, I'm currently a team manager, managing about 3 to 4 people within the team. Yeah. So Hays, who are we? We are actually a recruitment company. We are one of the largest worldwide with 50 over years of experience. Yeah, we have presence across 260 offices worldwide. And within Asia itself, we have 13 offices within Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, China, Thailand, you name it. Right? But let's focus a bit on Malaysia itself. So these are some of the major industries that we actually recruit in. So accountancy and finance, banking, technology, engineering. So these are the major ones that you can see. Okay? Job seeking process tips. Okay, so understand that majority of you here are fresh grads. Yeah? Can I have a quick show of hands? Who here is in the process of looking for jobs? Oh, not many. So the rest are just listening in. Okay, no problem. So we'll run through this as we go along, from building your resume all the way to asking the right questions. Yeah? Okay. Fun fact, resumes do not get you the job. Yeah? Now the resume is just a ticket for you to be able to secure an interview, and from the interview, that gives you a chance to then secure the job. So keep it simple, keep it smart, and accurate. Now, it's not just when you're fresh grad that this is important. Even when you've had work experience, it's equally important. Now, I personally have met a lot of head of departments. They have 15 years of experience, 20 years, fantastic at their job. But when it comes to their CV, it's all over the place. So this is a skill and a knowledge that will help you not just now, but even after 10 years of working, when you're looking out again, this is something that you need to know. Okay, so I recently received a CV from Taylor Swift. She is applying to work in Hays as a recruiter. Yeah, and so on her profile she says, a recent psychology grad with passions and talent for people's relationship, inspired, energetic, with determined to succeed. And she's also a part-time babysitter, with multiple family clients. Anything here that you all feel that shouldn't be put on here? Any volunteers that want to share? Contribute? No? Okay, never mind. Now, of course, the list goes on. It can go on longer than this. But I would say that these are some of the key things that we should put in our resume and that we should also be avoiding. Yeah? So for example, yes, we do need to include our contact details. Yeah? But we do not need to include information such as our IC, our gender, our weight, our health. Yeah? And the other thing that we do not need is over creative resumes. I have seen some where they love very creative graphics, and what happens is it makes the CV look over complicated. So just keep it simple, because at the end of the day, what your hiring manager or HR or recruiter wants to see is what relevant experience that you have that fits the job scope. So the easier it is on their eye, the better it is for you. And the next thing, double, triple check for spelling and grammatical errors. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. If, say, you are applying to a large MNC, for example, a large company, it's your dream job. Maybe you want to work for one of the top asset management as a fund manager, but you have grammatical errors throughout your CV. It's not going to look good for you on paper. Yeah? So if you do not have the confidence to proofread yourself, get your friends to proofread, get your family to proofread before you actually send it out. Right. Finding the right job. Okay. We are always thinking about how do I get the right job, or even during the interview process, is this the right job for me? The first stage and the most important thing, which we might think it's very simple, but not everyone actually practices it. It is doing your research. Now you need to know what is this company you're applying to, or even if you've applied to and you're getting an interview, what are their values like? What's their direction like? Is there anything about them within the media that you can read about? For example, if you're getting a large fine because of some internal issue, then you have to think twice whether is this a company you want to be joining. Okay? And then at the same time, are their visions and goals aligned also to your passion and interest? Those are some of the things that you have to think of as you do your research. Second thing, this is during the interview. Are they the right boss for you? Now, when you start work, you're going to be working with this person for most part of your day. In fact, you're going to see them probably more than you see your parents, more than see your partner, more than you see your friends. Yeah? So if you do not feel a connection to your boss and to the job, you're not going to be very happy. Yeah? So I always say during the interview session, it's not just them assessing you, it's also you trying to gauge whether it's the right fit for yourself. And thirdly, after every interview or after every application, do reflect on what you've gone through and your experience. Was there something that perhaps you could have done better? Yeah? Maybe you went in thinking this was the job for you, but then you left realizing it wasn't. So what happened in between? Did you not do enough research? Or was it a misalignment of expectations? So do reflect on your experience, and that will help you in your job seeking process. Okay. Interview tips. Yeah. So like I said, when you are able to understand the company, when you are able to understand what they do, you are able to match yourself to the job scope, for example. Yeah? If they are looking for A, do you have skill sets relating to A? Or actually you go in with C, which is a mismatch. And the next thing is, you also need to prepare yourself for predictable questions. So besides doing your research, there are a lot of questions that hiring managers will be asking, such as your goals, your strengths and weaknesses. And this is something you can also easily find online, common questions that we ask. prepare yourself before that. If you're feeling nervous, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Just take a deep breath before that. Yeah. Once you have done your sufficient preparation, you would be more prepared for these interviews. Now, in our post-COVID world, we have two kinds of interviews that could happen. One is the virtual, and one is the in-person interview. When it comes to the virtual interview, please do not conduct it in a cafe. We've had people being interviewed in a cafe and it becomes so distracting because it's noisy. You want, of course, the best outcome for yourself. So make sure your internet is uninterrupted and you're in a quiet place so that you can express yourself clearly without interruption. And when you're in an in-person interview, show some form of enthusiasm. Even if your hiring manager sits there with like a really serious face, they're not smiling at you, doesn't stop you from showing enthusiasm for the job. Yeah? And of course, at the end of it, have the courtesy to thank them, because simple things like this can set you apart from other candidates. There are people that really forget to just thank the interviewer for their time. Competency-based questions. Now, what are these? These are additional questions that hiring managers will ask to set you apart from other people. And it's mainly to test also how you respond to certain scenarios. For example, how well do you respond to stress? Are you a resilient person? Or are you someone that do not respond well to stress? And the method that we usually recommend is the STAR technique. Now, use a real experience you have gone through. Share about what was your task that you had to do, your strategy in overcoming the challenge, and what was the successful result out of it. Yeah? So I'll give you an example. One time I interviewed someone to be hired for me, and I just asked him, he hasn't worked before, so I just asked, okay, tell me what was the one challenge in your life and how do you overcome it? And so he told me, actually I'm more Chinese educated, I'm not really good in my English language, and when I joined uni I realized that was an issue because that would set me back from other people. So what I did was I started mixing with more English-speaking crowds, and even though they laughed at me, at my language, I continued trying to speak with them, and I am where I am today because of that. Yeah? So that sets him apart from other people I've met because, okay, this is a guy that will take initiative for his own learning, and he's not afraid of challenges. So this is an actual technique that we actually share with candidates whenever they are going for an interview. But you don't just have to share about your successes. You can also share about failures that you have faced, but what is more important is that what have you learned from these failures, and also how can you apply what you've learned to your future job. Examples, the competency-based questions. Now you can easily find these online, but these are just some of the very common ones that usually hiring managers will ask. Yeah. And how do we know? Because hiring managers ask us for a list of competency-based questions when they want to interview candidates. Okay. And lastly, always prepare to ask questions. At the end of it, the interview, sometimes the hiring managers will want to know, are you someone inquisitive? How do you think? Do you have actual interest to know about the company, what they can offer you? Yeah. So, and this is not just for them to be impressed with you, it's also for yourself. You will want to know what is the career progression that the company has to offer. So based on this question, it is also for you to be able to reflect on your experience to see whether it is something in line with your goals. And always at the end of it, do follow up with the company about any interview feedback. With this feedback, even if you're not shortlisted, you can use it to improve in your following interviews. So I know we speak a lot about securing a job, How do you get the right job? But I'm sure a lot of you are also looking for career success, or you aspire for some form of career success. Yeah. And I think we talked a lot about skills and knowledge, which get us far in our job, but we also forget the other part, which is values are just as equally important to support us in our journey. And I like to say there's these triple H values that support us most of the time, such as humility, harmony, and also humor. So when we are humble enough, our bosses, our managers are more likely to teach us how they succeed. They are more likely to guide us, and they are more likely to give us opportunities because they see that we are willing to learn. And when we have harmony with our colleagues, we actually work well with others. You'll be surprised that along the way, when you do need help within your work, your colleagues will be the one to actually step up and help you out. Yeah? And humor. So why humor? I have news to tell all of you. Throughout your career, you will definitely face failure. Ask anyone that's worked. We often focus that, I want success, but we forget that we definitely will face failure. In Sujin and I, we saw the success, but behind that, a lot of tears also. Yeah? A lot of failures that we have faced. But with humor, we get to pick ourselves up. We accept whatever we face, and we learn from it. I think the most important is, okay, things have not worked out the way I wanted, but what can I pick from it? Yeah? And you'll be surprised to find out that sometimes from your failures, that is where you gain the most experience that will propel you into your future success. Yeah? And before I pass over to Sujin for the market overview, I do have a poem, one of my favorite poems by this British poet. What he said was, I walked the mile with pleasure, and she chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and never a word said she. Oh, but the things I learned when sorrow walked with me. Okay, that's all from my end. I'll pass on to Sujin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumana, for imparting these life wisdoms to us. Okay, so I'll actually move on to the market trends. Okay, so I'll be sharing with you some of the market overview and recruitment trends that at Hays we actually foresee or have been observing so far within the financial services industry. Okay, so post-COVID, actually the market has been actually quite active. We have 39% of people who are actively looking out for a job, while 46% aren't but are open to new opportunities. So I think generally the people that we speak to, they are, even though they are not actively looking out, if you have a very interesting proposition or job opportunity for them, they are actually open to listen it out. And the top reasons for staying in their current companies are salary package, followed by work-life balance. So these two are actually very important consideration factors when people actually want to make a move or when they decide to stay in their current company. So, and we also observe that, post-pandemic, flexibility is very essential to navigate the current environment of work. We have observed a lot of the financial institutions, they have introduced working flexibility, perhaps a 3+2 kind of working arrangement, and we do foresee that to continue on. And more organizations are investing in learning and development, searching for talent across borders to increase their talent pool. So 65% of companies are having high volume recruitment needs, and on average, our workload as a recruiter has also increased after pandemic. So yeah, it's actually good news for everyone because we do also foresee generally the recruitment activities have gone up, and I think it will also be good for the economy as a whole. So these are some of the talent trends that we've observed in the financial services industry. Firstly is the demand for digital professionals. Even though traditionally financial services industry has been viewed as more of a, I would say a slower, heavier kind of industry, I would say because of digitization and because of COVID, a lot of financial institutions have actually accelerated their digital plan. So if let's say you are a fresh graduate or you just started out working, I would encourage you to actually develop yourself or improve yourself with some digital skills. Be it data analytics, data science, programming languages. I think these will be, I would say, the skill sets that will be very sought after in the future. So some of the digitally skilled professionals, programmers, data engineers, and robotic process automation developers, these are actually some of the more technical skill sets that we do foresee up and coming as well. The second area that we also observe that has a lot of demand is actually the Esg Talents, which is the environmental, social, governance talents. So sustainability has been a very hot topic, not just within financial services, but I think in general as a whole, the world is moving towards more awareness towards sustainability. And we have seen it in the banks. I think Bank Negara, they have been pushing the banks to also recruit more and more sustainability professionals to incorporate sustainability into the financing procedures as well. So I think CFA also has a ESG kind of certificate, so you might want to check it out as well. And another trend is like the hybrid roles between banking and finance. So, for example, within the investment space, we do see hybrid roles like investment governance, investment analytics, quantitative investments. So these are hybrid roles that combines different skill sets. For example, quantitative analysis plus some programming skills. So there's actually more and more demand because of the digitization of the working world. And lastly, priority is also given to companies with hybrid work models. So as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of organizations are moving towards a hybrid working model. So we also foresee the trend will continue on. Even though right now, I think Malaysia financial services industries, some of them have actually come back to fully working in office, but there's still this option to work from home as compared to the past. So that comes to the end of this session. So we have a Q&A session. Actually, it's open up to the floor. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, please scan the QR code and we will actually answer your questions as much as we can. Thank you. So we'll wait for the questions to come in.
Or if any brave soul wants to, grab this mic from us and ask the questions, we're good for that too.
Regarding the CV workshop or interview tips, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, is photo necessary in the resume? From a recruiter's perspective, to be honest, no. Because what we really focus on is the relevant experiences, the relevant working experiences, or the skill set that our client is looking for. So usually, unless our clients specifically mention that, I want to have a photo, then we will actually request for it. If not, usually we do not actually think that it's necessary.
How old are you? Interesting question. Remember I said on the resume we don't put age? Actually, we are not too far off from all of you. We are also still in our youth.
We would like to think that, yes.
Yeah. Late 20s.
Okay, how to answer the question, tell me about yourself in an interview. Okay, so usually we will, in the interview context, we would recommend you to, of course, just talk about your working experiences. So you can give yourself a very brief introduction. So what I'll say is I'm Sujin. I'm actually, I graduated from INTI University. I have a bachelor degree of international business, and I have about 5 years of working experiences. So I'll go, after I introduce my education, I'll go straight into my working experiences. And then from there, I'll say, okay, so for the past 5 years, I've been with Hays. I currently manage a team of 15 people, focusing on different functions within the banking and financial services industry. And in the past 5 years, I have achieved 4 promotions. So things like that. You want to go into your experiences and then share your achievements.
From a fresh grad perspective, I mean, we know that you might not have worked very much, but if you have any relevant internship experience or even any research or say, those challenge competitions that you have participated in, which is relevant to the role you're applying for, you can share about that. Yeah, you can talk about what you've gained from it and what are perhaps the skills or experience from that you feel is relevant to the job scope.
Yeah, and also I think throughout the session you can always mention, okay, I've developed these skill sets because I always wanted to apply for this job. So you want to relate it back to the role that you're applying to as well. So there's this question, how to answer, please introduce yourself. I think that's similar to the earlier question. Can you provide us an example of CV? Okay, so CV should be very tailored to each individual. And I would say a CV should always be tailored to the job that you're applying for as well.
So, I mean, like I said earlier with the tips, just keep it simple. Yeah, you do not need any fancy font. Yeah, my favorite font is Arial, font number 11, 10 or 11. Yeah, and always just keep it the header. So, for example, if you have had maybe 1 year of experience working already, just say, for example, Axiata, what year to what year? HR executive. Just a few bullet points of your key responsibilities there. Follow, if you have any key achievement, then add another one, key achievements. Few bullet points of your key achievements. Now what happens is that if I receive your CV, from the first glance, I can see what you have done and what your key achievements are. And that's clear and simple.
Yeah. How will ESG be helping in a financial service job scope? Okay, so these are the latest, I would say ESG, there's sustainable finance. I mean, these are some of the roles that actually we've received. So for example, as far as I understand, could be wrong as well, but as far as I understand, so when a bank wants to give out the loan and they want to finance a company, they instead of evaluating the usual criteria, for example, or do they have enough cash flow to repay? Do they have enough credentials? Are they a strong company? They will also take into sustainability considerations. For example, do they support a lot of industries that actually harms the environment or helps the environment? So these are the additional criteria that they will inject all these sustainability criteria into the, I would say, the financial services industry. Yeah. How long should the resume be?
Well, I've gotten that question, be it, if you're junior or whether you're someone senior. I think it's the age-old question. Now, at the end of the day, it just boils down to common sense. So if you have only had 3 years of experience, you can't possibly drag out your resume to a 3-pager, right? It doesn't make sense, yeah? So if you've got 3 years of experience, 5 years, and everything fits nicely into 1 page, yeah, that's great. But say if you've got 20 years of experience, try fitting that in a 1 page, good luck. It's not going to happen. Yeah, maybe you can fit it into 2-3 pages, okay? So at the end of the day, it's not so much of, okay, do I need to be longer to be better? Do I need to be shorter to be better? Like I said, keep it concise. Yeah. We just want to see what have you been doing, the tenure, which bank or which company or which asset management, and your key achievements. That's the most important thing, because how can you add value to the company? What's going to set you apart from maybe the 10, 20 other people that are also applying and with similar sort of background? It's the key achievements that will set you apart.
Yeah, I think on top of that, if let's say you have 20 years of experience, I don't, when I see a resume, I won't really actually read in detail your first sort of 5 to 10 years of experience, because I will be focusing more on your later years of experience, because I want to know over the years what kind of skill sets you've developed and what's your latest areas of focus. Usually I would say the rule of thumb is, there's no sort of one size fits all, but I think if the resume is more than 6 pages, it's going to be very, very long. So ideally, if you can keep it between 2 to 4 pages, I think that would be great. Okay, what does governance in ESG mean? I'm not really the expert at this, but what I understand is that because when you introduce a new framework or a new policy to any kind of companies or the banks, you will need the governance, you need someone to govern it, right? Like for example, the banks, they are governed by Bank Negara. So usually what happens right now is that the banks are recruiting for this head of ESG to make sure that everyone or each department follows through according to the new policies of ESG. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. What critical questions does HR question you? Well, I think this is something that's very easily you can easily Google it, but the general questions will always be your introduction, tell me more about yourself, what are your strengths, what are your areas of improvement, what are your key achievements, and some of the competency-based questions that Sumana has shared earlier on.
Because believe it or not, your HR would have Googled too. Yeah. They didn't need to take a master's course in interview questions, so they would have relied on Google too. Yeah. So hence, the best is really do your research before that. Do a quick search, how to answer interview questions, common interview questions, and you have prepared most of it. Of course, if it's a very technical role, then that would be different. Yeah. But then that boils down to what kind of position. Is it like a cybersecurity position? What is that? Yeah. But in general, they would have Googled the same questions.
Should the working experience specify in month? Okay, I guess you're trying to ask whether we should include the tenure of the working experience. You should always include the duration of your for each position in your company. Yeah.
How do I write relevant work experience for fresh grads? So I think the same like we mentioned just now, you would have participated perhaps in certain challenges, competitions, or certain maybe clubs and societies that's relevant to what you intend to pursue. And then based on that, you can share what you have learned, what you've picked up, and use that to match it to the right job. And I've met a fresh grad where he has also done certain research into investment space, because that is his passion. And he was able to elaborate to me all about what he has read. And I was like, okay, I'm not, this is not my thing, but you can do that when you meet the hiring manager. Because that will then demonstrate how passionate you are into this space. So have you read enough? You tell me, okay, you really want to be a fund manager, but how much do you really know about what fund manager does? Is it really your interest? Have you read enough? So these are some of the things for you to think about.
What advice do you have for someone who just got into a new job but found out that they don't fit in the company, or they figured out this is not what they want to do? Well, it happens for sure. I mean, it sometimes, when you join a company and you realize that it's not right for you. So I guess the moral of the story is to always do your research, like what Sumana mentioned earlier on. Try to speak to people in the company if possible. If you can actually, nowadays it's very easy. You can just connect people via LinkedIn and just ask them. And if you never try, you never know. But if you're already in the company, I would say try your best, do your best, and see if, give it some time. I would say give it some time, at least I would say 6 months, because you never know until you really give it a shot. But if it's really not working out for you, then of course you should always, try to find something else that's more relevant. And you should again ask the questions during the interview. Ask the interviewer, how's the work? What's the job scope like? What are your expectations? What's the usual working hours like? What's your management style like? So you can actually find out more during the interview before you actually decide to take the role. How do we follow up with the company? Is it email? How long after the interview can we do the follow-up? Well, usually when you apply to a company, I believe you apply through the HR. So what you can do is, and I believe when they actually interview, if they decide to interview, they will send you an email, right? So you can actually reply or use that email and follow up with the HR as well.
Does age matter when you apply for jobs? Say if I graduate above 27, would it be tough to get jobs? It depends what you graduate from. If you graduated with a master's or PhD, I think it's normal, for you to be looking for a job at 27. But even if you started your degree late, you must have had maybe some form of working experience prior to that, or even if you did not, it's still fine. I think what's more important is what are you doing now about it? Are you then opening up yourself to opportunities, or are you being very selective about opportunities? I think some of the common mistakes we as youth might do. So I have a friend also, she graduated recently from Nottingham, and I asked her, it's been 6 months with your degree, and she did a degree in cybersecurity. I said, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to get a job offer. It's been 6 months. And she's like, actually I've had many, but I'm just finding the perfect job. And I was like, okay, be very realistic. There's not going to be a perfect job. There's probably going to be the right fit to a certain extent, but there's no perfection out there. So if you're going to be looking for perfection, you will continuously be looking. So I always say any job, be it if it's the best fit for you, medium fit, or not the quite right fit, there will always be something for you to pick up on. So remember earlier I said about failures, we definitely will face failures. So even in getting the right job or etc., we're going to face challenges. That's a fact. But what can you gain from it? What can you reflect from this experience and apply, improve yourself for your following future? I think that is the more important thing.
Yeah. How to negotiate salary during interview? Well, okay, this is a tricky one. Of course, all of us want always a higher salary, right? We always want the best. But I think the first step is to identify or maybe do a survey or research about your peers, or maybe peers who have about same level of experiences as you, and find out what's the market rate right now in the industry or in the field that you're working in, right? And if you think that it's actually way my current pay is way below and I want to actually negotiate a higher pay, of course, if the first thing is do not talk about salary during the interview unless the clients bring it up. That's my tip. And if they bring it up, then that means they could probably be interested in hiring you. That's why they actually ask you this question. Okay, how much are you looking for? So that's the chance for you to actually state what you want. And if let's say the HR or the hiring manager thinks that it's a bit too high, they will show some signs that, oh, it's too high, or is it, wow, why did you think this is the number that you're asking for? And that's where you can also sort of explain and justify why you think this is the right figure for you. But you need to know what to say and you need to know what to justify. You can't just throw in a number and say, okay, this is what I'm looking for because I think I deserve this. Yeah. So if whatever number that you quote to your hiring manager, you need to be able to really explain the reason behind it. Yeah.
Now, Malaysia's salary has been deemed as too low among the reasons why we have brain drain. So are Malaysians getting poorer? Do you think Malaysian employers pay equitably? I think I get that question quite a bit too, yeah, from young people also. And you can check out our Hays salary guide on our website, and I'll say that that's not actually true. Yeah, I wouldn't say that we are paid very, very well, but I wouldn't say that we are paid too low either. Now, at the end of the day, I think it depends on yourself. I've met people, young people, who are paid really highly. Yeah, really highly. And what sets them apart is really their experience and what they can bring to the table. Now, if you just think about, okay, I want a higher salary, well, have you actually done anything to upskill yourself? Out of the, say, 100 employees within that department, how are you different from them? Yeah, are you just going to work 9 to 6, go home, you do the bare minimum, that's it? Yeah, and so some of the things we really have to think, okay, what am I doing for myself? How am I getting better at my work? Besides doing this work, am I also trying to improve, like thinking out of the box? In terms of strategy. Now, it doesn't mean that we all have to be extroverts, and it doesn't mean that extroverts are always the one that gets ahead of the crowd. Yeah, if you read, there's one interesting book about how actually a lot of the big founders and leaders in the world, they're all actually introverts. But what keeps them different is the way they think about things. That sets them apart from other people. Yeah, so I think that's something for you to discover. How are you going to improve yourself throughout your career?
What kind of value add you can actually bring to the table to the employers if you want to demand for more? I think that's always the question that employers will have in mind. What do you enjoy working in Hays? Is it? I think yeah. So I think Hays is we are a very transparent company. We have a very transparent career path. So when the moment you join Hays, you will know a rough timeline of, this is the average timeline of, okay, say you join as a trainee, usually it's about 3 to 6 months, and if you manage to achieve certain KPIs, you get promoted to a researcher, and from there you have a very clear, defined career path. From researcher, associate consultant, senior consultant, team manager. So the career path is very transparent, and that's what I like about Hays. And of course, because the nature of our job is actually sales, even though we do recruitment. So we are also compensated based on the number of placements that we make. So that's something that I do enjoy. The work that you put in, the more effort you put in, the more rewards that you get.
And the last question, what are the skills that you believe an intern or fresh graduate should equip themselves before entering the corporate world? Well, like we said earlier, I guess it depends what you want. If you want a tech job, then I suppose you need to equip yourself with something more technical. Yeah, if you are looking to join the media company, then that would be relevant. Then you have to look into what are the other sort of skill sets. So knowing sort of what you want. Now, it doesn't mean that you would definitely go into that area by the time you secure your first job or by the time you graduate. For example, Sujin was a banker, but now she's a recruitment consultant. Yeah, that's a huge change in the career. I was from an NGO working with refugees, and now I'm a recruitment consultant. So things change. But if you have sort of a semblance of an idea about what you want, then you can better equip yourself, to it. And like I said, as a fresh grad especially, as you progress, if you want to progress in your career, it's also your values that will support you along the way. Are you someone really humble enough, willing to learn? Yeah? Or do you feel that you know everything? Can you work well with others? These are the things that your bosses will take into account when they are considering you for promotion. Yeah. And of course, like I said, the last thing, whenever you face failure, just make the most out of it. Learn as much as you can and apply it for your future endeavors. Okay? Thank you everyone for your participation.